Alright everyone. Now, when I'm lazy, right, I like to do things easiest way possible for me. So, I've already started to kind of clear my desk a bit and do that sort of thing. What else can I do to make my life simpler? Alright, so we're back with this again, aren't we, yeah? Last week, or we started really, didn't we? When we went in and we used an Excel spreadsheet as a starting point, didn't we? So we've got this here. Let's make that full screen and we can see. We've got this, it pulled it all through, and then we built some pivot tables so that we could actually analyse what we did. And originally, we'd take with 4 files, and we might have something where we'll combine them or not. And for the sake of this, we just used 4 pivots to say 4 files, 4 sets of stuff to do. Right? And there'd be a list of scripts or something that we would run in Excel to build the pivot tables that we'd need. We then wrote a function. And then using that function, we were able to bring everything together and create a new pivot with everything homogenized, brought together, yeah? And that was nice, that was good. But someone still has to go, download the file, put it in the location, and hit refresh. Is there a better way? So the next step we tried was, we went into Power BI Desktop. And here in Power BI Desktop, let me just bring this through, make this full screen. We were able to say, well, we've got a folder already that's got the files we want, and we can use those file names to go directly to our data source and download the latest version. So we even highlighted that with an empty XML file effectively, and it just used the file name, went, connected up, downloaded the data, and we've got it here. Okay. The issue with this is that someone still has to come in and in Power BI Desktop hit refresh for it to then go away and get the latest data. So is there a better way? Is there some other way that I can now even do some quicker, better, more efficient, saves me from having to do that? And the answer is probably yes. So let's have a look at this. So what I've done here is I've created a new spreadsheet, or a new document library in SharePoint Online. So this is like OneDrive for Business location, so I can choose to sync it with my desktop. Anyone else who's got access to it can do that. Right? This group, it's a private group, it's just mine that I use for development work and development projects that I do separately from anyone else in the business. Don't worry about that. This could be a Microsoft team, so a Teams site, anything like that. The process is exactly the same. That's the important thing I want you to see. Okay, so I've gone through, I've created this in my OneDrive that I've got. Okay, it does need to be OneDrive for Business for what we're going to do today. Okay? Practically, you could do it with OneDrive Personal. It's very similar, but there's some slightly different steps, but we're going to use OneDrive for Business today. Okay, so I've created this and I've copied across the XML files that we've created, okay, or that we've got in the folder. Nothing special to that. Before we go any further, what I wanted to show you was this. Right, so this is the folder that I've been using as I'm working through and progressing this set of data. Okay, and what you can see is this is what I want you to see. So the Excel spreadsheet that we started with is nearly 5 megabytes. Okay, now you could say, I would argue, there's days in it twice, so that's half it, right? It's in there, so it's about 2 megabytes, 2 and a bit. And yet the Power BI version with the same data is just over 1. So compression is a really key part of the Power BI journey and why companies do it. Big thing, right? Being able to compress it, it's all part of it. We'll cover more of it as one of those lessons that you need to like kind of just keep hearing. That's to do with the way it's columnar. So because analysis is a column-based activity, which means it's column-based, it's not column-based, man. It is, right? I want to look and I want to see the total sales, so the sum of a sales column. Okay? That's a column where it's for product A and in store Y. Well, that's filters on 2 other columns. It's all column-based. You're using columns to effectively aggregate something at the end. And that's true of most analysis. That's kind of how it runs. Very rare do you want to extract a straight row of data. And that's the difference between an analytical database and a data prep database, or a database, a routine database that you would have, where you want to process a row. I want to look at a row. I want to insert some data to go with a row of something. Each of these, we can add columns, we can add things to this to add data to it, but it would be looking primarily at a row of data. It's a difficult one to get your head around, but it's worth repeat it. And we'll keep repeating it, and at some point I'll go, do you know what? I know what this is all about. The next thing from here is we're going to start a new Power BI desktop file. I'm going to come here. I'm going to say I want to go File, New. So here's my new file. What I need to do now is I need to say, let's get data. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose get data. I'm going to come down to the bottom and I'm going to pick more. And then in the list that comes out, you'll see I've got a Sharepoint folder. Right, so I'm going to pick the Sharepoint folder. And then I'm going to click Connect. And it's going to say, well, which Sharepoint folder do you want? So let's go back over to the Sharepoint folder and we'll look at the URL that we've got. Okay. When it asks for a Sharepoint site, this is the bit it means. Okay. So your business, where it is, and then your Sharepoint group. So in this case, RW Development. Okay, the rest you don't need. So I'm going to copy this, go back over to my Power BI desktop file. I'm going to paste that in here and click OK. Okay, that's going to open up the Sharepoint site that we've got. And again, we're going to click Transform Data. So here we go. Here's our location. Key thing, remember, we've got some extra stuff in here. So we've got nulls, we've got like a JPEG, we've got an MHT file in. So what we want is we just want the XML files. So we're going to click on the little arrow thing down and we're going to pick XML, the little arrow thing. The little arrow, we'll pick XML. You could do further filtering on file names or something else if that's what you wanted. But you can see we've pulled the file content through and we've got binary file content in because it's picked out there's a file. So there's something there that you might want to do something with. For now, that's all we need. Now, this is where it's going to get tricky. So pause and you might want to come back to this bit. So if we go back to our original Power BI file, because one of the things that we talked about is that we're going to extend and reuse as much as possible our XML files, or our function, sorry, that's key, part of the evolution. So what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to go to Transform Data here. So click Transform Data, transform the data, and what we want to pick is the establishment details, okay? Because this was the original source that we did. Okay, we're not going to pick the function. I'd say recommend just pick the source, the source that you've got. You can bring the function through. I prefer to do it this way. This is just me. You know, you be you if you want to be you and bring the function through. Either one is going to work. So it's just a right click and a copy. Okay, and then we go back over to our other location and you can see we've just got a query 1 and we're going to paste this in. And it brings through the parameters. Right? Now, The issue that you're going to face is because we want to be able to publish this up to the web, it means we need to do and follow some rules. One of those is that these won't work. Okay, what this says, using a parameter for your main URL does not work with a scheduled refresh. Okay, what it does is it assumes that could change, so a scheduled refresh could be corrupted, or you could be in all sorts of issues. If you're doing it in Power BI Desktop, it assumes you're clever and you know what you're doing. If you do it in the web, it assumes that anything could happen. So what we're going to have to do is get rid of the XML location side. There's something else that we're going to have to do as well, right, which is where we're going to have to change the way the URL is constructed to make it into what's called a relative path. Okay, it sounds a lot worse than it is, and I'll show you in this establishment details what I mean, and then you'll be, oh, I get it, right? So what we've got to do is we've got to take this bit off, so the end, the open data files. So I'm going to Control X that to cut it, and this is going to become our parameter for now, okay? Just because otherwise it gets too convoluted, okay? We're then going to come back to our establishment details, and you can see now it's not working because that's not a valid URL. So let's go back to the source, or we could click go to the error, then it would tell us where the error is. Zoom in on this. Now then, an XML location, comma, relative path equals and I need to put square bracket at the end there, don't I? Okay. So we've now got that in. So remember, you need to take that first slash off. You need to take that slash off the start of it, remember, okay? And because we're saying it to use a relative path, what it's got at the moment is this XML location. Just hit refresh just to get rid of that little thing there. Okay, so if we now get rid of the XML location, so let's go back to XML location, and we can copy this, and again, the limitation, if you want to say that, of Word, Office, of Windows, that you can only have one thing copied and pasted. It's not really a limitation, is it? It's kind of, well, it is, but, you know. And I'm just going to put that in, and hit OK. All right. So now what this means is if I hit data source, you can see we've got a data source listed here. We've got that, and everything is fine. Okay? Right, that's how you know it's going to work. If it's not, you'll see there's a line here that talks about hand-coded. Okay? And then you aren't going to be able to refresh your data set. It's what's called a dynamic data set. And an automatic scheduled refresh will not work. So we've got that. We now hit close. So now what I want to do, just to prove that this works, is I'm going to delete this XML location parameter. And it should say it's fine because nothing's using it. So we've got the file name, parameter, we've got that. Okay, and we're putting in that information there. So what we can do now is right click on here, as we've done before. Let's create the function. Week 3 function, and click OK. Do we want to test it? I'm not going to test it this time, right? I've got faith in me. So if we click back on the query that I've got, let's highlight the column that's got the XML files, right click on it, and remove the other columns. And then what we want to do is add a column, invoke a custom function. The custom function is going to be the week 3 function with name as the parameter, Click OK. See, we've got the tables. We've got 6 tables. Brilliant. What more could you want? Let's right click on that, remove the other columns again. So we just have that. Expand it. And remember to tick the box. We didn't need the prefix. And I've now got the table of data that I need. The last step that I'm going to go through and do is, and I'll fast forward through this bit, I'm just going to set the data types for each column, and then we'll close and apply. Okay? Champion. Alright, so there we go. So it's now going to load my nice new data set. Remember what we need to do? So we go and we pick longitude, and we tell it that this is longitude. And for the aggregation, don't summarize, and let's do the same with latitude. Don't summarize, this is latitude. And let's put in a longitude and a latitude. It's going to make a nice map for us. It's a different map than the one we normally do, but it does the job. And then we can bring in our rating value as a legend. And then let's put the table in that we need as well. So let's put that in. We have the local authority name. And then we need the rating value on the top. And then we need to put in a sum, don't we? So let's put in our account, sorry. Click that. Zoom in, and this is going to be businesses equals count rows of query 1. Okay. And then we can drop that onto there. Okay. So now I've got a really simple, basic report. Okay. But what it does is it gives me a great way I can go and say, I want to see what's going on in Gateshead, or I want to see what's going on in North Tyneside. Okay. Great. Works perfectly for me. Okay. I'm going to publish this now, right? And the location I'm going to choose to publish this to is going to be my workspace. Okay? When you're doing this in a business situation, you should not be publishing content to your workspace. Right? I'm choosing to do my workspace this time because if I was a free Power BI user or anything like that, I'd have a workspace. Okay, so I can publish to my workspace. It makes sense in my little mind to do that way. It'll also allow us to show you some things, and then next week we'll put it into a proper workspace because we'll do something a little bit different. Right? So let's do this now. Okay, and then we'll go through and set up the scheduling. So we'll come through and we'll hit publish. I'm going to save this to my lovely little location. Week 3 Power BI file. Okay. Pick my workspace, and you can see I can browse to any other workspaces that I've got access to. Access to is the key thing. It's not all of the ones in your business, it's the ones that you have access to. It's going to go away. Think about doing it. Do you want to open it? Let's open it. And you'll see here is my report now visible online. And it works. So I can click Newcastle, click South Tyneside, North Tyneside, Durham. Okay. See what's happening with all of them. The next step that I need to do is I need to set up the scheduled refresh, isn't it? So if I come back to the workspace, so in this case, my workspace here on the bottom, if you're in a different workspace, it'll be there at the bottom. So click there, and you can see the different files. You can see it's got this little, ta-da, I guess, sunrise, I don't know what it is, thing to encourage you that this is new. And you can see we've got the data set and we've got the report. And this is because, remember, Power BI PBIX files contain two things. You've got the data set and you've got visualizations. Power BI service splits the two so that you end up with data set and report. And you can add reports against your data set. So if we click on here now, you can see there's a new view that allows you to see what's happening, and you can even choose to analyze in Excel. So I can choose to create a new report against this or anything like that. Not interested right now. What we're going to do now, let's go back to here. is we're going to click on there so you can see it, right? And we're going to choose under settings where to go, right? And you can see this is the settings of your file, or of your data set. Right, the one we're interested in today is going to be the schedule refresh, but you might also want to look at some of the other areas as you're progressing with what it is you're doing. So we're going to schedule the refresh. Let's keep it up to date, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to say let's do it at 6 p.m. Okay, so 6 p.m. allows for whatever happened during the office day. It's happened. That makes sense to me to refresh. Pointless me saying I want it refreshed at 9 a.m. Let's pick up where was it at the end of yesterday. Okay, you might want to check the site and decide actually this is a better time. I'll leave it up to you. Okay, for me, this example, let's stick with that. Okay, so that's now going to refresh, and if I come back to my file, you can see it's now telling you the next refresh is going to be 6 p.m. So let's come through here and hit refresh now, just to validate that it does work. And you can see the little icons going around, spinning, spinny, spinny. And hopefully, if I've done my job right, it'll do. And it has done. So it's now refreshed at 11:07. And you can see the data set for the report has also updated in terms of the last refresh date time. So that's a great piece of advice to have, or great piece of information, advice. It's a great bit of information to see. And you can see at the top of it, when you click on the report, right at the top you've got data updated, and this tells you when the data was last updated. Key thing to remember, data and data and data are different. What? Simple way of looking at it, this data set has just been refreshed, so it was refreshed at 11:07. If we zoom in here, okay, right, the Newcastle, North Tyneside and those data sets won't have refreshed at that date and time though, will they? They're going to have a different time frame for their refresh. So there's differences around the chain. This data updated refers to when the data model was last refreshed. So be aware. So what do you reckon then? Okay, there's a lot that happens with this and the way that your data flows through into different layers or different environments within Power BI. So this being able to use the Power BI service to go extract the data that we need, get the latest versions, excellent. Okay, I can set this up once and it'll just keep refreshing. Every time I go and look at it, it'll be the latest day's version. Remembering that it's all going to rely on each local authority putting in updated files to the main website. Okay, so my date of update is as reliable as it could ever be. Okay, it's not going to be the date that each and every local authority submitted their values, and that would be something that you might want to consider, and that we'll consider as we start to expand on this, because now we've got this. What we'll do next week is we'll bring it through into a data flow. And what we'll probably look to do as well is to spin it and actually let's just pull everything in and let's build the whole UK, although I think it's just England and Wales, I think. Do I? Is it? Let's find out together, shall we? Right? We'll build that all up into one, and then we can start to do on week 5, actually let's look at building that model and doing that properly. So we'll expand the model, we'll do some other things, we might look at building in a nice one-pager that would be ideal to print out for a site to be able to say, look, this is our certificate, for example. I don't know, let's see what comes over it. Let's, what brilliant ideas we have. So anyway, I hope you come back next week, right? I hope you're following along, trialing this out, seeing what you can do, standing up your own brilliant ideas and your own excellent versions of these reports. For now though, stay safe, take care of yourselves, ta-da.